Hello, everyone. This is Andy Hall. What is this? The Disappointed Cat Morning Show? What kind of name is that anyway? That makes no sense. Maybe that's the reflection of the times that we live in. Does it really make sense? I don't know. What stories are we covering today? King Philip the God, or Prince Philip the God. How do gods become gods? Good question. We're going to answer that. Facebook trouble with a town in France with an unfortunate name. Oh, there's just going to be a lot of police. Not all negative stories about the police. A good story with other police stuff. And Dr. Fauci should be tortured. Is that what an evangelical minister said? Yes. Let's start off with some energy before we jump into the news cycle.
I was born in a Dublin street where the royal drums the beat, and those loving English feet, they walked all over us. Oh, and every single night when me da would come home tight, he'd invite the neighbours out with this fine chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Oh, and how the IRA made you run like Hathaway from the green and lovely lanes of Killishandra. Come tell us how you slew them all Arabs 2 by 2. Like the Zulus, they had spears and bows and arrows. Oh, how bravely you faced one with your 16-pounder gun, and you frightened them poor natives to the marrow.
And a cheery good morning to you all. What a way to start the show. So what's the name of the French city? All right, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'll show you I'll show you the panel if I can find it quickly here. It's the second story we're calling. It is Ville de Biche. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. That's how I am going to pronounce it. But yeah, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well this morning. Me, what do I have news? Do I have news? Maybe I do. And what's my news? I has a job. That's news for me, at least. That's news. So what does that mean? That Andy has a job, and what does that mean in terms of my blogging and for me on YouTube? Well, I've been able to carve out a schedule for me that allows me to be here in the morning from 9 to 11, because of course we do the Disappointed Cat Morning Show from 9 to 10, and then we do the open room from 10 to 11. So today I have orientation, for an example, and I have to leave here pretty quickly after the open room, the after party, after show. And so, under normal circumstances, I'm not going to have to go to work. I'm not going to have to be at work until noontime. So from noon to 5, I'll be working Monday through Friday, weekends off currently. So is this a full-time job? No, it's not. Do I need a full-time job right now? Not right now. About 25 hours a week will be sufficient for me. So what does this mean for Jenga? Today, it's my kid's birthday today. My kid turns 16 years old. We've been doing the whole party thing. There's going to be cake, ice cream cake. There's going to be pizza and everything like that. And so I won't be doing Jenga today because I got birthday and I have my orientation at work. What does this mean for Jenga in the future? I'm not going to actually be starting the job for another week and a half. Is this going to be all about Andy's story right now? Because we have so many news stuff to go through. So I'm not going to get into it right now about what I've got coming at me for the next week and a half. Maybe we'll explore that more in the open room if you're interested. Let's get into the news. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Say good instead of well. I don't know what I said. Dr. Mordecai. I'm not going to lie to you. Don't make yourself ill with pressure. What do I appear to be someone that would overschedule themselves? Do I look like that person? Yeah, I am notorious for overscheduling myself. Right, new job in the 16th, and whether you started with the video you did. Exactly. We're just gonna get through today, man. We're just gonna get through today. Theo, Phil, good seeing all of you. Blazing. Yeah, thanks, Sammy. Yeah, it's gonna be home healthcare stuff. So I'm gonna be entering people's homes, helping them out, basically. You know, anyone who's been watching this show has been watching this channel for a while knows the kind of work I do. Human service stuff. Jess M, good morning. Brainbug and Lee and Tobin Templeman. When a cat doesn't want to say goodbye, what do they say instead? See you later. Right. All right. I like that. All right. I think I hit hello to everyone. Derek Cruz. Yeah. I wrote a little piece of satire this morning. I put it in the chat. It's about Mike Lindell telling people to bury their Bibles. This is, of course, a satirical piece, but based in a historical event in the election of 1800 when Adams, who was running against Jefferson, there was some hysteria that Jefferson would steal Bibles from people, that the administration would stamp out Christianity. Oh, things don't change. Things don't change, everyone. All right, so let's go. Yeah, home care. Yeah, home care is, it's going to be, well, you know, I'm used to this kind of stuff. You know, I've been doing this kind of work for the last 20, 25 years. And so, Kevin Chaos, good morning. How are you doing? It's all true. All right, let's do some memes. You want to do some memes before we start talking about stories? News stories? I like this one. Oh, I should get rid of that banner like I has job. All right, there we go. I found this comical. I found weed. Woo! I like the monkey on the roof. That monkey seems a little bit happier than everybody else. He's going to blaze some up. What's the next one? I thought this might be the geek in me, right? This might be the geek in me, but I really enjoyed this one. So much that I turned to my girlfriend and said, I got a joke for you. Sometimes I feel like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh, poor Tyrannosaurus. And it really wouldn't be the Disappointed Cat morning show if we didn't have a cat. World's oldest cat, who is 31, looks exactly how I expect the world's oldest cat to look. Sick of your shit. 31 years old. I don't even know if that's true. I just saw the meme on Instagram, and I thought, oh, that's hilarious. That is definitely worth sharing with everyone. Woohoo! That's right. 31 years old. Kevin Chaos is good. People care. That's what it is. It just happens to be people care in people's homes. For an example, in the past, when I was doing residential care, I was in their homes, but the homes were owned by companies. Well, these are private homes. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's nuanced. There's a lot of nooks and crannies in the differences of the kinds of jobs I've done. All right, so we know about cargo cults. I'm switching to a news story, by the way. And we know that people can become gods. They don't really become gods, but people can think of them as gods. For example, the Emperor of Japan was once considered to be a god, right? But what about Prince Philip? Prince Philip, who just died. Yes, he was considered to be a god. And I'm probably going to get a little angry as I talk about this, because not only was he considered a god, but Prince Charles might be taking his place. Prince Philip, I'm going to butcher this name, Vanuatu tribes mourning the death of their god. As Britons mourn the death of Prince Philip, well, some Britons, I would say, they're joined by a tribal community in the Pacific island half a world away. For decades, two villages in the Vanuatuan island of Tanna have revered the Duke of Edinburgh as a godlike spiritual figure. A formal period of mourning is now underway. On Monday, scores of tribespeople gathered in a ceremony to remember Prince Philip. All right. Before I even get into this story, if I even heard that someone out there had made an idol to me and was worshiping me, first thing I'd say is, please stop doing that. I am pretty awesome. It's true. But I am no God. And if you really want to lend a hand, then throw some cash into my Patreon account, right? Or become a YouTube member. See, that's a cheap shot. That's just a cheap pitch right there. But seriously, I think I speak for all of us. If we knew a group of people were worshiping us, you just got to international. This is the American Sign Language for stop. You just say stop. Just stop it. It's not okay. The connection between the people on this island, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, and the English people is very strong. We are sending condolence messages to the royal family and the people of England. The tribal leader, Chief Yappa, according to Reuters news agency, for the next 2 weeks, villagers will periodically meet to conduct rites for the Duke, who is seen as a recycled descendant of a powerful spirit or god that lives in one of their mountains, said anthropologist Kirk Huffman, who studied the tribe since the 1970s. This is a long story, so I'm just going to cut things. I'm only giving you certain panels. The thing is that Prince, he never really told them that, hey, I'm not a god. He understood what was going on. There was actually a group of the tribespeople who went over to England to visit him, to give him gifts and everything. And at no point did he say, hey, thanks, but not your mountain deity. The villagers' centuries-old custom or culture and way of life sees Tana as the origin of the world and aims to promote peace. And this is where Prince Philip has played a central role. Please continue. Over time, the villagers have come to believe he is one of them, the fulfillment of a prophecy of a tribesman who has left the island in his original spiritual form to find a powerful wife overseas. Ruling with the UK with the help of the Queen, he was trying to bring peace and respect for tradition to England and other parts of the world. If he was successful, then he would return to Tana. Now, this is what I find interesting. The one thing preventing him was, as they saw it, white people's stupidity, jealousy, greed, and perpetual fighting. I want to just say that again. The one thing preventing him from returning was, as they saw it, white people's stupidity, jealousy, greed, and perpetual fighting. Well, you have to admit, greed and stupidity has gotten in the way of many good plans. I don't really think it got in the way of this plan. So you're thinking to yourself, well, that's crazy. But here's the not so unpredictable twist. Is that too many negatives? Maybe. A son continuing his father's mission. The Duke's death has now inevitably opened up a tricky question, enter cognitive dissonance, of who will take the place of the tribe's spiritual pantheon. Discussions are already underway, and it may take some time before they decide on a successor. But for observers familiar with the tribe, where tribal custom usually dictates that the title of chief is inherited by male descendants, the answer is obvious. They might say he has left it to Charles to continue his mission. Prince Charles, God. How's that? I would say, if I was the British, I would just say, right here, there should be a plebiscite in England just to force Charles to tell them, look, I'm not your recycled God. I am certainly not the guy that's worthy of this, of anything, to tell you the truth. Oh. They hit white people on the head in general. Yeah, well, it's an interesting story with that bit of insight. Right. Wouldn't you have a God with better teeth, John Hudson? Wouldn't you have a better God? One that doesn't need a dental plan? Oh, Charles, he will. He will. That's the sickening thing about it. Yeah. The sex god. What is? Oh, yeah, Sammy goes, I'd be a god. Sure. Well, it makes me think of the Ghostbusters scene, right? Of the original Ghostbusters, where their one turns to the other. I think it's Dan Aykroyd turning to Bill Murray turns to Dan Aykroyd. It's like if someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. Maybe not a good policy in real life. Oh. All right. Oh, hey, Simply Secular Dave. Thanks for reminding me and to mention things. Like, please share and like the video. That's fantastic. All right. Prince Charles is very unpopular. Well, he probably won't be in that island. He might become a god. All right. Next story about that village in France who was having a dust up with Facebook. The Ville de Biche. Facebook mistakenly removes the French town's page. I don't know if you saw the late night show from about 2 weeks ago where we had two guests on to talk about their woes, their problems with Facebook. By the way, I just had my page, Laughing in Disbelief, just got a strike against it, just got in trouble with Facebook for a meme. And I'm happy to report that I was able to say, I don't agree with your ruling. Of course, I think I'm still going to get the strike. I'm still going to get the slap on the wrist. But Facebook decided to act out against this Ville de Biche and let us see what it's all about. Facebook has been criticized for temporarily removing the official page of the small town of Biche. The social network's algorithm confused the name of the town in Moselle, northeast France, with the English insult. Biche's mayor said the Facebook page of the town, population 5,000, was removed on the 19th of March for violating site rules. Oh, that star chamber there in Facebook. Facebook said it had reinstated the page on Tuesday after spotting the error. On March 19th, Facebook informed that our page, Ville de Biche, was no longer online on the basis that it was in violation of conditions applying to Facebook pages. The mayor, Benoit Kiefer, said in a statement in French. I like that they mentioned it in French. The name of our town seemed to suffer from a bad interpretation, he added. After the page was removed, the town hall had to create a new page, Marie 57230. Wow, that just rolls off the tongue. Named in reference to the town's postcode, Mr. Kiefer criticized Facebook methods for monitoring content. You and everybody else, Mr. Kiefer. What has happened to the town of Biche demonstrates the insufficient and limited moderating tools that only a human gaze can appreciate, he said. The mayor said that the president of French Facebook had contacted him on Tuesday to tell him the page had been reinstated and to apologize for the inconvenience. Mr. Kiefer invited him, as well as Facebook chief executive Mark Zuckerberg, to visit Biche to discover our pretty fortified town. Facebook spokesman told the BBC on Tuesday the page was removed in error and was swiftly restored this morning when we became aware of the issue. Another town in the region, Rohrbach-les-Biches, renamed its page Ville de Rohrbach on Monday. I don't think they should need to change the name of their Facebook page. I think it's Facebook. I think Facebook is the one who needs to change. And however they do their monitoring, it's ridiculous. No, of course, yeah, exactly. He won't step back, Theo. He won't step back, especially from being a god, right? Here it is. Well, interesting point. Prince Charles will probably, the Queen will outlive him. Straight to William. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing, John Hudson, you're spot on with that. The centuries of inbreeding. I'm just going through a podcast called Revolutions, and the revolution that they're reviewing or talking about right now is the Russian Revolution, and about the inbreeding that led to the hemophilia of the Tsarich, of the little boy, Alexander. I believe that's his name. And so the boy, because, everyone was inbred, especially back then, back in the 19th century, early 20th century, all the royal houses were inbred. And one of the reasons why the House of Romanov fell in Russia was because of the royal family's inability to deal with the hemophilia of their son. And it brought in Rasputin. It's a whole thing. But inbreeding, not a good policy. The book name, it is Revolutions Podcast, John Hudson. Revolutions Podcast. It is an exceptional podcast. The gentleman who does the Revolutions Podcast also did another great podcast called The History of Rome. Incredible. It starts from the beginning of Rome till the end of the Western Empire. And then the gentleman started out the Revolutions Podcast. Definitely worth checking out. Hey, Wild Eden, how you doing? What have we gone through so far today? Prince Philip being a god, and maybe Prince Charles becoming a god for a small island. The Facebook taking down pages just because the algorithm says it so. Yes, Charles's grandparents were the descendants of Queen Victoria, indeed. Yep, as a cousin. Why do all the royals call each other cousin? Indeed. Why do they? Nothing good. All right. So we're going to do halftime show. Maybe a little early, but we're going to do halftime show. And this is going to be funny. This is an old school. Okay, let's just do this. Don't explain the joke.
Life is complicated. These are trying times. There are many questions that need answering. Want to know what's going to help? Atheism. With atheism, you'll get rid of dogma, superstitions, and toxic thought patterns that are holding you back. You can drive while taking atheism, as well as use heavy machinery. In fact, drinking alcohol, fornicating, and Sunday mornings are far more enjoyable with atheism. However, there are side effects. Some evangelicals and fundamentalists will think you are possessed by the devil. But you don't have to worry, because you know the devil isn't real. Just like God. Wake up to your life. Believe in yourself. Believe in science. Atheism.
All right. That was a pleasant halftime show. I like showing the old videos. Let's see. Yeah, and actually this video you can see, it's on my shorts. I have a couple of different playlists on this channel, and that is in my shorts playlist. Maybe comedy shorts? I think it's just shorts. Yeah, of course it's seen already. I like playing the old videos. It makes me feel good inside. All right. So let's see. What are we doing next? Police. We got two. Yeah, we got like three stories about the police today because it's the United States of America. And in case you're wondering, anyone, yes, police can pull you over for hanging an air freshener in your car. Links are in the description. In case you're wondering whether or not the police can pull you over for having like one of those pine tree air fresheners dangling from your rearview mirror. Yeah. In a lot of places, it's legal. Minnesota is one of the several states with laws that prohibit hanging items from a rearview mirror or fixing them to the windshield on grounds that they could obstruct the driver's vision. A person shall not drive or operate any motor vehicle with any object suspended between the driver and the windshield other than sun visors, rearview mirrors, driver feedback, and safety monitoring equipment when mounted immediately behind, slightly above, or slightly below the rearview mirror. Minnesota's law states such minor infractions have been questioned by black motorists and others who view them as a pretext for racially motivated traffic stops. To tell you the truth, I wouldn't trust cops to execute laws like that, because they're cops and it's the United States of America. where cops pretty much have almost total immunity from any wrong, historically speaking. Immunity from any wrongdoing. So you're giving them a blank check. You give an authoritarian a blank check to exercise authority. Things, that's just a recipe for things going wrong. Air fresheners in car have led to legal challenges. Police traffic stops because of dangling air fresheners have already led to several court challenges. In September 2018, police pulled over 2 black men in Chicago for having an air freshener hanging from a rearview mirror. During the stop, officers found weapons in the vehicle, and the men were charged with unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm just going to continue with the story. The men did not allege they were racially profiled, but they moved to suppress the evidence, arguing that the air freshener was not sufficient probable cause for the officers to pull them over. Last year, a federal appeals court ruled that the stop was legitimate, saying police had reasonable suspicion to believe that a tree-shaped air freshener obstructed the driver's view. Both men were sentenced to prison. So yes, if you're driving here in the States, don't have anything hanging off your rearview mirror. Oh man, how crazy is that? Virginia just added another provision to the law. This is a bit of good news. Several other states, including California, Pennsylvania, and Arizona, prohibit drivers from hanging things that would obstruct their vision near the windshield. Under the Arizona state law, it's illegal to have an object near the rear view that side effects it obstructs the driver's view. This is just an excuse for people to get pulled over. But a sheriff's deputy was fired in Arizona last year after he pulled over a black man for having an air freshener hanging from his rear view mirror, then repeatedly asked him if he had drugs in the car. I think if I got pulled over in Arizona and I had an air freshener dangling from my rearview mirror, they're not going to ask me if I have drugs in my car. That's just that isn't even a leap. In Virginia, a dangling object near a car's windshield used to be grounds for a valid stop, but a new law that went into effect on March 1st changed things. Virginia still penalizes dangling objects, but the police now must have another justification to first stop the vehicle, he said. So in Virginia, they can't stop you specifically for having a dangling object on your rearview mirror, but only if it so there has to be another reason to pull you over. Once again, giving the police more power is not the answer. Perhaps taking power away from the police, maybe that's an answer to our problems. That's it, Wild Eden. That's it, right? So what are you in for? Air freshener. I had an air freshener. It's a 3 strikes law. I got caught with an air freshener 3 times. And so this is it. Now I got 20 years. Of course, it wouldn't be 20 years probably, but how much does it have to dangle? You know what, Brainbug? If you have to ask, how much does it have to dangle? You're already dangling, my friend. If you have to ask how much does it have to dangle, you're already dangling. Yes, Jesse Bear. I have seen the video of the Black Service member. Army pulled over and pepper sprayed. He was calm and no files charged. It is there's just so much crap going on with police. Thank my fictitious God, there's body cameras. Thank my fictitious God, there are cell phone cameras. Because if you haven't seen the video, it is disturbing. It is disturbing. Theoretically, police can stop and check you here for no reason, but they don't shoot you so fast. And here's the thing, theoretically. Yes. If our police weren't so crazy, if the United States of America weren't so crazy, I might be open to the idea that maybe you should be pulled over if you have something dangling in your rear view, on your rear view mirror that obstructs your view. However, considering the nature of policing in the United States of America, I don't think the cops can handle it. I don't think our system can handle cops given any more authority than what they have. And that's too much authority, too. Vesta. Hey, good to see you, Vesta. Well, that's the thing, Vesta. I wonder what would happen if the hanging air freshener was a cross. Do they make Blue Lives Matter air fresheners? That's a good question too. I hadn't even thought of that. Well, you're going to get arrested, John Hudson. Dangling? You're going to get pulled over and asked if you have drugs. All right. Let's see what else we have here up in the chat. Just going back. All right, so we're going to talk about the thing. We're gonna do a video about I'm going to share a video about the shooting of Daunte Wright. I believe I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I hope I am. I always feel anxious about pronouncing names. All right, let's because the police chief quit and the officer put in her notice. But let's do this thing. I'm going to share the video with you guys in a GIF, in a second, in a moment. Here we go. I think this will work, everyone. See, look at this. Miracle of Elijah.
So tough story out of Minnesota. The district attorney handling the Daunte Wright case says we may learn today if the officer who shot him will be charged. This comes after a third night of protest in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. That's the city where Daunte Wright died. And also other demonstrations in Philadelphia, Chicago, and Dallas. Omar Villafranca is in Brooklyn Center, where police say Officer Kim Potter meant to reach for her taser before shooting and killing Daunte Wright. Omar, good morning to you.
Good morning. The National Guard is still here behind me looking over the scene after another night of protest despite a curfew. Pepper spray and, of course, flashbangs were used to disperse the crowd. There were around 60 arrests. Yesterday, the chief of police and Officer Kim Potter both resigned, but some people say that Potter should have been fired.
And I never imagined this is what was going to happen. I just thought maybe he was being arrested.
Kate Wright, Daunte's mother, said she was on the phone with the woman who was in the car with her son moments after the shooting.
And it was on a FaceTime. And she said, she was crying and screaming, and she said that they shot him. Then she pointed the phone towards the driver's seat, and my son was laying there, unresponsive. That was the last time that I seen my son.
Police say Daunte Wright had been pulled over for an expired vehicle tag. They say officers tried to arrest him when they learned of an outstanding warrant and that he resisted. Police say Officer Kim Potter, who had been training a new officer, thought she reached for her taser. But she fired a gun instead. Officer Potter was a 26-year veteran of the police force. Along with Police Chief Tim Gannon, Potter offered her resignation Tuesday, saying in a letter she believes it is in the best interest of the community, the department, and my fellow officers if I resign immediately. Brooklyn Center Mayor Mike Elliott.
I'm hoping that this will help bring some calm to the community. Although, I think ultimately people want justice.
Why was she allowed to resign, and why didn't you fire her instead?
We were going through our own processes to make sure that we had all of the documentation in order to be able to do that.
Daunte Wright, life matters. In a show of solidarity, Wright's family met Tuesday with the family of George Floyd, just outside the courthouse where the murder trial of former officer Derek Chauvin is being held.
We're here, and we will fight for justice for this family, just like we're fighting for our brother.
At that press conference yesterday, I also asked, since Potter resigned and was not fired, would she still get her pension and be able to get another job in law enforcement? The mayor and the acting police chief could not answer that question. The mayor also was asking the case to be reassigned to the state attorney general, but the state AG says he feels confident the Washington County DA can handle this case. Yep.
It's a very good question you asked, Omar, because a lot of people are wondering, will she now be able to get another job? And that's a problem for many. Thank you very much.
Will she be able to get another job in law enforcement? Will she get another job with, as Theo said, dangerous items on her belt? Maybe she shouldn't be. It's Sammy says our cops don't expect someone to pull a gun like American cops would have to. Yeah, it's once again it's American cops not de-escalating people. I mean, willing just to go into get into a physical altercation with people as against to de-escalating them. And she was training somebody, that same day. I don't know, everyone. It's, as Chris Rock said in a comedy routine, when people talk about a few bad apples, Rock said that, well, if you remember the metaphor, the analogy is that a few bad apples ruin the barrel. It ruins the whole lot. Too quick to violence, too quick. And once again, if it was a white person and they were struggling, would she have tried to take, so many questions. I do have a good story about policing actually coming up, but I want to make sure I got everyone in the chat here. Yeah. Jesse Bear, I've not had an inspection sticker for 9 months. I have my windshield replaced. I've not been pulled over once, and I'm currently a gig delivery driver. Yes, I think during the pandemic, Jesse, cops are less likely to pull people over for minor traffic infractions. At least in my area, they are. At least in my area, I've seen less policing, stopping of everyday traffic issues. Well, it's a, the thing is, Sammy, right, is that would they have been as likely? What we do know is that when police departments have 30% or more minority officers, the incidents, these kind of incidences go down. I was listening to a Freakonomics podcast, and they were talking about real ways of managing police departments and controlling police riots or managing police violence. And one of them is having a police force that is 30% minorities or greater. A lot of what ifs. What's up, Scott Duke? How are you? Scott Duke, you I believe you gave me a bunch of coffee yesterday on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you. What have, wow. I have my new sticker, just too lazy to put it on. What happened? What stories have we gone over? Prince Philip, considered to be a god on a small island, and Prince Philip soon to take his place. A French town got its Facebook page yanked because of the algorithm and its unfortunate name. So maybe not. It's not an unfortunate name. It's just Facebook's fault. Policing. And what's the next story that we're going to be doing? One more police story. I just discovered this story a little while ago. This should make everyone feel a little bit better about the state of policing, or at least hope. Hope. We can't really say, let's say hope. Judge rules for Black Buffalo police officer fired for stopping colleague's chokehold. So there have been times that you've seen, that we've all seen on TV, right, or on the internet or whatever, that there is an officer obviously doing something wrong, and you ask yourself, wow, I wonder why the other officers just aren't tapping that person on the back or trying to break the chain, the chain of escalation going on. Because once again, as a person who has done physical restraints on people, there is a team mentality. And if one person's doing something wrong, one staff person's doing something wrong, the other staff person is supposed to step in. In this case, an officer was fired because they interrupted another officer's chokehold. A New York court on Tuesday reinstated the pension of former Buffalo police officer Cariel Horn, who was fired for intervening when a white colleague held a black man in a chokehold during a 2006 arrest. Driving the news. State Supreme Court Judge Dennis Ward noted in his ruling similar cases like the death of George Floyd. Ward said the role of other officers at the scene in such instances had come under scrutiny, particularly their complicity in failing to intervene to save the life of a person to whom such unreasonable physical force is being applied. To her credit, Officer Horn did not merely stand by, but instead sought to intervene despite the penalty she ultimately paid for doing so. She saved a life that day, and history will now record her for the hero she is. Judge Wood partially based his decision to overturn a 2010 ruling that upheld her firing on legislation signed by Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown in October, known as Carriel's Law, which makes it a crime for law enforcement officer to fail to intervene when another officer is using excessive force, and also protects whistleblowers. So the law was just filed in October? I mean, good for Buffalo for signing the law, but you would think it would just be already a law for what is it? That makes it a crime for law enforcement officers to fail to intervene when another officer is using excessive force. You would think this is already on the books, but no, just since October. The big picture, Horn, who is black, said she heard the handcuffed man say he couldn't breathe, invoking the deaths in police custody of Floyd and Eric Garner, two black men who said this in their dying words, which have become a national rallying cry against police brutality. The New York Times notes. Horn said her fellow officer punched her in the face when she tried to stop him. The Buffalo Police Department claimed she had put her fellow officers at risk, and she was fired in 2008. So, Officer Horn, she sees a white officer choke holding a black man, saying he can't breathe. She tries to stop the situation, to stop things. The officer pops her in the face, and then she gets fired. And then a court in 2010 says, yeah, you deserve to get fired. It isn't until now that she's able to get her back pay and her pension and the restoration of her good name. My freaking God. I mean, I know it's supposed to be a positive story, everyone. I know it's supposed to be a positive story. I build it as a positive story. And good for her for getting her money and her reputation back, right? And there's a precedence now. There's a precedence in Buffalo. There's a law in Buffalo, so that's good. But you got to wonder about the communities where this doesn't happen. All right. So let's see. I'm just going back up in the chat and seeing where everyone's going. Well, yes, John Hudson. You know, it's interesting that I was having this discussion with my girlfriend yesterday about bad brains, right? As Michael Shermer would say, you know, we all have bad brains. And yeah, I've seen, and some of you who know this story knows that there is a difference in how a stun gun, I mean, this is just from me reading about it. There's a difference how heavy a gun is versus a stun gun, how it feels in your hand. But I would say that bad brains can make, and also, you know, the fact that the man was black, you know, is there some kind of unconscious or a conscious bias in the officer then? So it's probably a combination of factors. It's probably because she could have drawn because obviously she had to draw the gun or she was supposed to draw the stun pistol from her other side. So if she's right-handed, the stun gun is on, the taser is on the left-hand side. But in the moment, she might have just forgotten because she's not only dealing with the particular incident, but she's also trying to train another officer at the same time. That's a lot of programs running in a person's brain, especially if it's later on in the day, because we know we've covered this before. You know, brains work best in the beginning of the day, typically for at least, I think, half to 75% of the population. Your brain's going to work best in the morning, and later on in the day, it just doesn't work as well. So if you're going to make a mistake, if your brain is going to make a poor judgment, if it's going to fall for, you know, if it's going to make these poor choices, it's going to happen in the later shift, part of your shift. Well, that's interesting, Brain Bug. I'm not sure. It's a good question, though. Yeah. Well, don't go, Brain Bug, or the hive will collapse in tease. All right. So now that we talked 3 stories about policing, and now we're going to talk about an evangelical minister who's talking that Dr. Fauci should be tortured. This is from The Friendly Atheist. Rick Wiles, Dr. Fauci must be tortured my God. Let me say it again, because I think I just blew out a couple of neurons trying to say this. Rick Wiles, Dr. Fauci must be tortured until he admits he helped create COVID. Was he in league with the Chinese? Is he part of, I don't know. Right-wing pundit and professional anti-Semite Rick Wiles, who said months ago we should execute supposed liberal traitors, is still having Christian murder fantasies. This time he wants to see Dr. Fauci tortured for trying to save people's lives, I guess. I always like Hemmett's way of how he writes the articles. Just the underlying bit of snark. Oh, this is a quote from Mr. Wiles. You're a liar. You know what you did, Fauci. You worked for the Chinese Communist Party for years, and you used your own taxpayer money to work on a coronavirus with bats. It's an interesting sentence, isn't it? So Dr. Fauci is in league with the Chinese Communist Party and bats, and you did it behind our back. Well, of course he did, if he was going to do that, deceiving the American people, and you participated in the creation of this virus. I'll say it again, Fauci. You should be taken to Gitmo Bay and waterboarded until you cough up the truth. Oh, I see what he did there. Very clever, including the names of other traitors who have helped China damage the USA with the virus. He must be in competition with other right-wing nut jobs over who can squeeze the most lies in the shortest soundbite. I do like Kevin. Given the needs to be graded on the curve, maybe Wiles deserves some extra credit for finally acknowledging the virus exists. Oh, I like that idea. By the way, he's made the same threat before against liberals, saying they should be transported to Gitmo and waterboarded to confess who's funding the left-wing organizations. Hammett's actually the Friendly Atheist. He's coming on the show, coming on this channel to do the episode of The Best Advice Ever. It's a show where great people come on to talk about the best advice they ever got. There's a whole playlist on this channel, Best Advice Ever. Notables like Thomas Westbrook, Dylan Goen, have come on and talked about the best advice they ever got. And if you haven't seen any of the episodes, it's worth some of your time, I think. So yeah, right? Wow. Crazy evangelicals. Got an evangelical. All right. Sad how few people acknowledge Churchill makes no reliable confessions. This is true. Yeah, I always think about the Star Trek Next Generation, the episode. How many lights do you see, Picard? How many lights do you see? Right. We go from one heavy topic of policing in the States to wishing torture on someone. Oh, hey, thank you, Scott Duke. Please hit the disappointed cat. We'll become grumpy cat. We're gonna put a bow on this. We're gonna start tying things up. I got a funny video, and Tobin Templeman. Here we go. We can't rely on the Bible for advice. Oh, this is true. There is one place I've heard some good advice, and thank you, Tobin. Best advice ever. If you're willing to do an interview, I would watch the show. Oh yeah. I've probably the best advice ever is one of the most fulfilling things personally that I do. I've actually learned quite a few things. Yeah, from doing the best advice ever. All right, something funny. Let's do something funny.
There was this actor named Angelicus in 408 BC who messed up one of his lines so famously. Then 2 millennia later, we still know his name, and poets through the ages carry on his shame. He was in the play Orestes by the famed Euripides. He was supposed supposed to say? After a storm again I see a calm sea. But he messed up the accent, and in front of all those people he said, after a storm again I see a weasel. Lord, let it make me famous when my career goes down the tubes. This one's for Hegelicus, I see the weasel too.
I cannot tell you how much I love that song. I would say that one of the gaps in my knowledge, Greek plays. I do pretty well with Shakespeare, but Greek plays, there's a lot I don't know. There's a lot. I would not do well in that Jeopardy category. Imaginary God. The Bible is where I always get my advice on witches and crushed testicles. I'm going to say that you probably said testicles as against the tentacles there, imaginary God. Oh, yeah. Well, Lot and his daughters, that Jesse Bear, anytime anyone quotes the Bible as anything good, I cite Lot and his daughters. Normally shuts them up quick, yeah. The Bible says what? The interview I did with Michael Weissman a few weeks ago. Going through that book, it's really a lot of chunks of insanity that I knew a long time ago. And it was a nice refresher course for me. It should be a classic song. That's right. So we are doing, we, in the royal sense of we, all of us, some of us, we're going to be doing, the After Party After Show. Link in the description if you want to pop in and talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's an open room, so we can talk about any subject. If no one shows up, I'm just going to talk for about 5 or 10 minutes and then sign off. But we've had some really good conversations over the last, I don't know, we've just had some really cool conversations. And looking at the analytics, there are just as many people watching the After Party After Show as there are doing this show, which is great, which is fantastic. So I hope you join me. I hope you join us. And so, yeah, I think I'll see you all at 10 o'clock or some, like I said, some of you, or maybe all of you. I don't know. But if you want to pop in, you've probably seen the After Party After Show before. It's just, we're just doing like a free flowing kind of conversation, and pretty cool conversation too. All right. Take care, everyone. I'm going to do the thank you video for patrons and members YouTube here. And so let me do that.